welcome to yet another very exciting episode of the Maternity Show with me, Sona Dabo, on African Renaissance TV. So I know a lot of you would be complaining that you miss to receive content from this program, but I want to assure you that we've been working tirelessly on several other issues that you would be enjoying from our show. And one of them today I brought you is this book titled Pregnancy, What You Should Know. And of course, on this episode, we will be talking to Dr. Abiola Salami Olubiyi, the author of this book. So this book basically is a content that is drawn for pregnant women and even men, and also anybody that wants to get pregnant or is planning to get pregnant. It's quite important that you read this book. But let's get to understand why you should read this book. So Dr. Abiola Salami Olubiyi is a public health physician, and she works with MRC the Gambia as a research clinician. And of course, she started work since 2009. She has done so much work in terms of health and well-being. She's also a specialist in epidemiology and community health. But again, one thing that interests me the most about Doctor is her passion to really discuss things that are really not talked about, especially when it comes to women's health and pregnancy. So Doctor, you're so much welcome to the Maternity Show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, Doctor. So before we get to talk about the content of this book, I just want to draw from you what really inspired you to write this amazing book. I mean, the content is really beautiful and it's so easy to understand. What inspired you?
Thank you, Sonia. First and foremost, I'm a woman, and I know that it's every woman's dream to have a child, and your prayer is that you should carry your pregnancy to term and have a beautiful baby to show for it. So that was where it began. So I did not write the book because I was a doctor or because I know so much about medicine. I wrote it from the perspective of a mother who has been denied of so much information in court. It's like these things are shrouded in secrecy, you know. So going through the experience myself and seeing the experiences of others around me inspired me to write the book, so as to get that information out there for people so that they can learn.
That is very important, because when there is information, people are empowered. So along the line, we know you've done a lot of work since 2009. You are a mother and also a working mother for that matter. So how did you get to research all these things and put it in this book that is so much informative, the work and all that?
Thank you, Sona. So one of my passions is that I read a lot. So apart from the fact that I'm a doctor, yes, some of this information are at my fingertips, but also I love to read. I read a lot. I get information here and there, and then I love disseminating the information as well, so in a language that people can understand. You know, sometimes you speak to doctors and then you don't really understand what they are talking about.
Yeah.
So I love to speak to people in a language that they can understand.
So what special thing do you think it's in this book that really sets aside this book from other pregnancy books that we have in the market?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very important question. So the book is an easy to read book, something that you can pick now and then get so much easily in one small book. If you sit down, within 30 minutes you are done reading the book, and you will tell me that you are the better for it because you've learned so much in that short time, as against getting a big book and then you don't even know what they are talking about. Yeah. So that's why this book stands out. It gives you information that you need exactly how you need it. That will be useful for you.
Yeah, that's really important. So actually, I've gone through the book and I realized on page 10, these are things that we've discussed somehow with my other guests on other episodes. But on page 10, something that really triggered me is that women that get married newly, you know, always are anxious about getting pregnant at that instant. So I also realized in the write-up, you mentioned that there's a certain percentage, like 20 to 30%, that really get pregnant at that instant, but 90% of them would get pregnant after 1 year, and then the rest would get pregnant after the 2 years or so. So do you think we can discuss around the factors that are around this, and also if one should be anxious or not about this issue?
Okay, thank you, Sona. So that's a very important question, in the sense that when you get married, especially in the African culture, it's expected that within 9 months, in fact, in my own culture, they sing to you on the wedding day that in 9 months you're coming to carry your twins or your triplets or something like that. Okay, so that puts a lot of pressure on you, the newlyweds, and then your relationship together becomes kind of like a task to produce an offspring. You just got married, you should enjoy yourselves and have fun. That is what you should do in the earlier part of marriage, because when the child comes in, it's a huge distraction. You may not have time for yourselves. Okay, so now going medically, it is believed that within the first month, about 20 to 30% will get pregnant. It might not be due to any issues. It's just normal. Okay, and then within the first 1 year, about 90%. Within the second year, about 95%. And then that is provided that they are having adequate sex. And adequate sex means that they are meeting at least 3 times a week. Both of them are okay. There's nothing wrong with them, and they live together. And that's another thing. They are living together. Okay, so even with all that's present, about 5% will not get pregnant. And then when it gets to the 1 year mark and you've been having adequate sex, you've been living together, we advocate that, go and see an OBGYN, let them test you to be sure that there is nothing wrong.
What is an OBGYN?
Oh, I'm very sorry. Obstetrician / gynecologist.
Okay, right.
So you go and see them, and then they run certain tests, because when you don't have children, yes, you get anxious because that's what you want. If you don't want it, you are not anxious. I know a lot of people that don't want to get pregnant within a few years of their marriage. They just want to maybe pursue career and all those. They're not anxious. It's only those who want it that become anxious. And then when you go, they can see whether there are fertility issues, maybe there are blockages in the tubes, things like that. So that is the reason why after 1 year would advise that, see a specialist.
Yeah, that will help you. I think that's quite important for a lot of young people that are getting married today to really understand this part, because it's going to put a lot of burden on their head and a lot of stress that there becomes hitches in the marriage here and there. So also on the next speech, which is talking about what you should do when you want to get pregnant, I think that's what the book is all about at some point. So it did give some hints around seeing a specialist again to really understand your genotype. So about that, the blood groups become so much important. What blood groups would not really get married to another?
Thank you very much. So ideally, as a young woman from 18 to 25, that's the best time to get pregnant, actually. Really, that's when you're most fertile. Okay, so you are supposed to be in preconception clinic, attending clinic normally, taking folic acid, because when you're pregnant, the folic acid is going to help the brain development of your child. So as a young girl or lady, you are supposed to be aware of that. Okay, so now when you get married and now pregnancy is what you want, there are certain things that you should do, or even before you get married, because for instance, you talked about the blood group, the genotype thing. You should know before you get married so that you know what to expect.
Exactly.
Okay, but I think I might have been a bit strict.
Yeah. I saw something like that.
Yeah. So because now we have more information on things to do, even in low resource settings like we find ourselves. All this wouldn't happen if we were in Europe or all those things. They wouldn't say don't marry this or don't marry that. No. But because we are in resource limited settings, that is why we advocate that, if you can get somebody else, blah, 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 especially with the genotype, if you carry a sickle cell gene. Okay, that's a whole lot on its own, so I will not dwell too much on that. So in the book I say, AA, people with genotypes AA can marry anyone. They can even marry an SS, they can marry a CC, they can marry an SC. But for others, you must be careful. So if you know, it helps you to better prepare. So if you are like an AS now, you are marrying an AS, you should be prepared that every child, in every child that you're going to have, there's a 25% chance of having a child with sickle cell. So if you are prepared for that, perhaps you could do prenatal diagnosis if it's a sickle cell child that is coming or something. There are so many tests that can be done. Okay, but to prevent it in low resource settings, we advocate that, don't bother going that way. Marry somebody that would not make you have children that will give you problems in the future. Okay, so that's what that as per genotype. It's not widely done here in the Gambia, so I'm trying to use your medium to create awareness for it.
Okay.
That people should do their genotype. You won't want to have a child that will die. You won't want to have a child that is suffering, that you are in the clinic or hospital every now and then.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's better. Then I'll quickly move on to the ABO incompatibility. Why you also need to know your husband's or your spouse's blood group. Because, for instance, I'll give myself as an example. My blood group is O. My husband is AB. So all the children that we will have will either be A or B. And that means my own blood will be sensitized against them, and then they're going to come down with neonatal jaundice.
Wow.
If not well managed, could cross the brain and make the child to be mentally retarded. I don't want to use big words, but could be mentally retarded. So for reasons like that, you need to do all these tests and counseling before you get into the marriage. When you are in it and you already know, then you know how to better chart your course. Okay,
so now that these things happen usually with people that don't really know, and then it happens, how do they prepare their mind, or how should they prepare their mind to live with such people, like the mental retarded? So the lot is attached to them. Some people will be like, Gina's taking your baby. And you know,
I've never heard of that one.
Anyway,
okay, so when you have such issues, it's still better to seek counseling, because they are not things that you get over. It's not like malaria that you treat 3 days and then it's gone. No, this is something you're going to be stuck with for the rest of your life. And then most likely the child will be dependent on you all through your life. So you should be emotionally, financially, and psychologically prepared for it. So it's not something that you can just wave with your hand. And if you have a child with sickle cell, you know that you're going to have to invest a lot of money, emotions into it. You might be in the hospital this week, you are fine next week, the next week, and then you are back in the hospital. It can be that bad, and then you know how best to control some of these things. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
So again, looking at the book, I think there's a lot of information around that. So I would just advise that anybody watching this should get him or herself this book. That will really be helpful. So my target is to discuss on the most important aspect of this book, which is the importance of sex in pregnancy that I've come across. But we will discuss this when we're back from break. We will just take a break, right? And we'll be back soon. Welcome back from that short break. If you're joining us now, this is the Maternity Show on African Renaissance TV with me, Sona Adabo. And today we are looking at a book titled Pregnancy, What You Should Know, with the author, Dr. Abiola Salami Olubiyi. I find it difficult to call all that. It's kind of long for me.
But you're doing a good job.
Thank you. So before we went on that short break, we were looking at some of the key things you have in the book. So now I want us to move forward on like one of the most interesting parts for me that I think people don't really talk about, you know, when they're pregnant, and this is sex in pregnancy. So let's just quickly browse through the importance of sex in pregnancy.
Well, thank you so much. So, sex in pregnancy is actually an interesting part for me too. Because for a lot of women, sex is an arduous task for them in pregnancy. You know, the tummy is here like this, and then maybe you're feeling pain or you're uncomfortable, and then somebody wants you to get down with them. So it's a bit hard for a lot of people. But I also found out that pregnancy sometimes increases some people's libido. So it's not something that is out of place for people to want to have sex during pregnancy. Okay. And even though all those factors I just mentioned are there, they still enjoy it and all that. So now let's look at how it benefits us, okay? Yeah. So when you have sex in pregnancy as a pregnant woman, okay, there are some hormones that are released that help you, okay? One of it is endorphins. Naturally, whether you're pregnant or not, endorphins are released. And what endorphins does is that it makes you happy.
This hormone is released in the woman or the man?
In the woman,
Okay.
in both, actually. But, you know, for you as a woman, even if you were feeling somehow before with the hormone coursing through your veins, in fact, it's been said to numb pain.
Oh.
Yes, so you are happy, you are joyful, you are bouncing. So if you're able to have good sex, you are good to go, you know.
Okay.
And then the one that will help with the delivery of the baby, that's relaxing. Okay, and so that would help the pubic symphysis to kind of relax so that delivery can be very easy.
That hormone is also released during sex?
Yes, from the spouse, okay, and also from the pregnant woman. It's released from her cervix during the cervical stimulation and all that. So it helps on the long run. Then it improves intimacy between your husband and you. You won't say because you are pregnant, you should go sit down somewhere. So you guys still have that connection. So I think it's actually very, very important.
Yeah, so looking at all those important aspects, I still wonder why some women will even be disgusted just by the sight of their husbands.
Oh, thank you, Sonia. So pregnancy, even in the same person, can be different, not to talk of in various people.
Yeah.
Okay. So for some people, this even just the sight of their husband like this disgusts them.
Yeah.
You cannot rule that out. And that's why the men have to be very, very patient with the women. Okay. Now, I asked the question earlier on that, what was it like before they got pregnant? Were they really intimate before they got pregnant?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to even do with only the sex. They could have some other intimate moments, cuddling, kissing, holding hands and all that. So what was it like prior to the pregnancy? If it was good prior to the pregnancy, chances that they'll be able to achieve something good during the pregnancy is high. Unlike if it's a woman that is beaten before sex or is abused, maybe verbally or emotionally, such a woman will not open up to you because sex for women is cerebral.
Oh.
They have to be in that mindset to have sex. But for men, it's visual. Immediately they see the woman, they want to get down with her.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of a biological difference between a man and a woman. So if you want to get down with a woman, you have to get her ready. You have to make her want you. So you should prepare her mind. So why don't you send her text messages or say something nice to her, write her a poem, things like that to calm her down, to want you. Also, and then for the women as well, don't wait for the guys to come to you. Since you know the benefits you are going to get from it, that is going to relax you, make you happy. So don't wait for the men to come to you. Go and initiate the sexual act with them. Meanwhile, keeping in mind that you have to make sure that you are comfortable, both of you are comfortable.
I was even
you choose
coming
a
to
position.
that. You know, with the tummy like that. You know, some women can even be scared to be laid on, something like that. So what positions would you basically advise in this case?
Okay, so first and foremost, as I said, both of you have to be very comfortable. I advocate that you have a lot of pillows to prop, to help with movements and all that. Then avoid putting pressure on the abdomen. Okay, so if you're able to do that, then you can now choose the comfortable positions for you. So we've advocated spooning, which is like they lie side by side, but the woman is facing forward, then the man is facing her. So that's like spooning. Then maybe what they call rear entry or doggy style, so that there's no pressure on the abdomen and so many like that.
Yeah, I think that is going to make sense. So while reading this book, I came across some of those styles, basically. I think that is going to interest the readers to really understand how these things work. So the best thing would be to just get this book and then read about most of these styles. So tell me, doctor, what could go wrong in sex during pregnancy?
Actually, thank you for answering that question. Some things could go wrong because, you know, each pregnancy has its own intricacies, okay? So for a woman that has a low-lying placenta, sometimes if they have sex, they could start bleeding. Sometimes the sex, because oxytocin is one of the hormones that is released, okay, can lead to some contractions. And so it's been said that some people can have preterm labor. if the man has multiple sexual partners, the woman can be predisposed to sexually transmitted infections and stuff like that. But you should talk to your doctor. They will see how you can get around some of these things. Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's really important. So while we are looking at the important aspects of sex, does the baby have any form of benefit in this whole thing?
Okay. Thank you. So when you mentioned baby, I laughed because many women, they will tell their husbands that, hey, if you do this thing, the baby will know, or the baby will hit sperm or something like that. There is nothing like that, because at the mouth of the cervix, there's a mucus plug.
Okay.
So nothing is going up there.
So that's like a myth on their mind already.
It's a myth. So I'm dispelling that myth right now. There's nothing that is going to go wrong, okay? So for the baby, maybe not directly, but because the delivery may be smooth, so the child will be spared from having fetal distress.
Yeah.
Okay, so for that, maybe for the baby, but for the mother, well, as I've said before, it makes the delivery easy and all that. Yeah.
So actually, I would have want us to discuss almost every aspect of this book, but looks like we don't really have the time for that. But I realized this book was published in 2020. So with this generation that the internet is really doing good for a lot of people. So what do you think you've missed out in this book that people can also add onto their knowledge that they might get from this book before we let you go?
Yeah, thank you very much. So every day, knowledge increases.
Yeah.
So even I'm planning on editing the book.
Yeah, I was even coming to that. Do you have any plans?
Yes, it's already in the process. Actually, I started, but I have not completed it. So, like, when I was talking about birth preparedness and complication readiness, and then when I was talking about the pre-marriage counseling and all those things, I didn't dwell much on them. Then I talked about family planning and breastfeeding. I didn't talk much about them. So now I want to do more. And then for this generation, all the information is actually out there. You can go online and get the information. This is just a guide. So even if you have the book, it does not stop you from going online to do more research. It's just like whetting your appetite for what is more that you can get.
Yeah. So also I've realized that you've done a lot of research, you know, looking at all the reference materials that I found here. And also you did not only stop at doing that, you've also attached some form of religion. Is this to make sure people really read the book, or it's a personal thing for you? I don't know.
Okay, so thank you. I'm a Christian. So, and then like you, that you're a Muslim, you know the Quran, you know the Hadith. What I know is the Bible. And then what I know in the Bible is already a part of me. Like when I'm talking, I can just use a Bible verse to say something that is useful at that moment. So like when I was writing the book, that Bible verse about when two lie together, they produce it. It came to mind because I wanted to talk about sex, you know, because I don't want a case whereby somebody is neglected, alone, cold. So that's how it comes to mind. It's not like I planned for it to be like that. It's just that, like, when you're talking, you use idioms, you use expressions. So those are part of what I use because it's a part of me.
All right, that's nice. So I'm afraid that is all we have for the time. But before we let you go, probably you should tell us what really you would want everybody watching it right now to get to know about you, about the book, or anything.
Okay, thank you. So I am Abiola. I am passionate about people's health. So I use every opportunity that I have to talk about people's health and how it can be better. Okay, so I wrote this book out of my passion for helping people to know more. I also blog on www.abiolaolubiyi.blogspot.com. Okay.
And the blog is about what exactly?
Health issues.
Okay.
Anything. Okay, so what else? What was the second question?
Just anything you want people to know.
Okay, like, and that health is wealth. I say that we are like the engine that is running, that is making everything around us to work. Once we're down, every other thing suffers. So make sure that you take care of yourself every time. If you need to rest, rest. If you need to take a vacation, take a vacation. You should go for a blood checkup and all those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abiola. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. We really appreciate. Well, viewers, that brought us to the end of this very important episode on the book Pregnancy, What You Should Know. So this book, Pregnancy, What You Should Know, discusses the different stages that there are in pregnancy. And of course, it gives you an account in the simplest manner possible. The book is just for $200 and it's available at Timbuktu. Every mother, every sister, every brother, and of course, every father needs this book. You can be pregnant and need this book. You can even be planning to get pregnant and you still need this book. Therefore, make efforts to go and get this book. I didn't even ask you about that, like the distribution and all that.
That's true. It's at Timbuktu, so everybody can get it from there, okay? And then it's useful as a wedding present. So you can give it out as gifts to people, okay?
All right, that's fine. Thank you very much, Abiola. And then we've all had it together. So viewers, this has been your usual show, the Maternity Show on African Renaissance TV with me, Sona Dabo. And until I come your way next episode, bye.